Welcome, everybody. John here with episode 36 of Black and Gold Weekly, a weekly Boston Bruins show here on YouTube in partnership with Black and Gold Productions. And it is a huge week as Boston Bruins training camp is underway. We have preseason games coming up in just a couple of days. And we're getting really, really close to the start of the regular season. But the team is back on the ice. We have hockey being played. And we're getting ready here for the start of 2021-2022. So really, really exciting stuff going on with the Bruins right now and with hockey in general. And we're going to get into that. We're going to look at the Bruins preseason schedule and talk about their preseason a little bit. And we're also going to delve into some storylines that are kind of making themselves apparent in Bruins training camp early on here to start this season. And we're going to look at some articles written on blackandgoldhockey.com that talks about some of those storylines and things to watch for here during training camp. So, going to be a fun episode, a lot to get into. Again, I want to give a huge thank you to Mark Allred and the entire team at Black and Gold Productions. This show would not be happening without them, so a big thank you for all the support. Now, of course, want to mention the links down in the description of this video. If you are in the market for Boston Bruins apparel, NHL apparel for any team, or NCAA college apparel, there are 3 links down in the description where you can check out all of those things. They have a wide variety of products, all the normal stuff like shirts and hats and sweatshirts, jerseys, that kind of stuff. But they also have a lot of different accessory type products as well that you can look through. And if you want any team branded stuff, that is definitely the place to go. And it would be very, very much appreciated if you could check out the products offered using those links in the description. But well, let's get into it here. We're going to take a look first, talk about the preseason a little bit. Obviously, the Bruins' first preseason game is coming up on Sunday, so we are jumping right into the action. They get a few days of practice on the ice before, and then it's right into game action. So I'm going to pull up the preseason schedule here so we can take a look and talk about their opponents, when they are, which ones are televised and whatnot, and all of that. So as you can see, September 26th, which is Sunday night, just a couple of days from now, Boston plays their first game at Washington at 5 p.m. Let's see, this game is not televised on NESN in the New England area. It is on NHL Network, however, so if you have NHL Network, you'll be able to watch it. But this will be their first Boston Bruins game action. Obviously, there's going to be a mix of players in there. It's not going to be Boston's opening night lineup. There'll probably be a few veterans playing, but they'll have a lot of young guys in the lineup for that game, as well as they'll probably slowly work the older guys in. So we don't know what the lineup's going to look like for that, but definitely expect a mix of some Bruins regulars, but also quite a few younger guys getting some game action here at the NHL level. They play again on Tuesday, the 28th, at the New York Rangers. This game is also on NHL Network. It is not available on NESN, but it is on NHL Network. So if you have that, you'll be able to watch it. This is obviously another one against the Rangers that they play the same 3 teams twice for their 6 preseason games. So they start out with a couple on the road, and then they come home and they get their first home preseason game at 7:30 p.m. on Thursday night, September 30th. And this game is on TNT. This is a nationally televised preseason game on TNT. This will actually be the first game that TNT broadcasts now that they're a network covering the NHL. It's this preseason game between the Bruins and the Flyers at TD Garden. And obviously, everyone's going to have the opportunity to watch that. And that's going to be a big one. I will certainly be watching that game. That'll be the first Bruins game that I'll have the opportunity to watch. And really, really excited for that. That's just coming up in less than a week now. That's 6 days away. So obviously super exciting there. Those are their first 3 preseason games. Then we move over into October, and they play at home again against the New York Rangers on Saturday, October 2nd. And that game is available on NESN Plus. So if you have NESN Plus, you'll be able to see that one. That's a 7 p.m. start time against the Rangers. Then they go on the road to Philadelphia on Monday night, October 4th. This game is available on NESN, so this is another one that everyone, as long as you have NESN, will be able to watch. And this one at Philadelphia, and then they close out their preseason against the Washington Capitals on Wednesday, October 6th. This game is also available on NESN, 7 p.m. start time, and that'll be their last preseason game. They play 6, 2 against the Capitals, 2 against the Rangers, and 2 against the Flyers. And obviously, as we get later into the preseason, like especially these last 3 games, I think you're going to see more of the NHL lineup shape into form in the later preseason games. And the other thing is that the Bruins have a very long break between their last preseason game and their first regular season game. So you could see pretty much, most of their starting lineup play in this last preseason game, and then they'll have over a week off before they actually go into the regular season. So, sometimes that last preseason game tends to be almost like a throwaway game for some teams, especially if they're starting their regular season, just a few days later. But that's not the case with the Bruins. They have a long break here from October 7th all the way until October 16th when their first game is. So you could see the regulars play a lot, especially in these last 2 or maybe 3 preseason games. And you'll really see that NHL lineup come to form, because Boston doesn't start their regular season until October 16th, which is very late against Dallas. NHL starts on October 12th with 2 games, but a lot of teams start either the 13th or the 14th in that middle of that week. Boston doesn't play until Saturday night, the 16th, so they have a little bit longer of a stretch there than most teams between the end of the preseason and the start of the regular season. So there could definitely be some exciting preseason games with this team, especially given the matchups. Rangers are going to be a super fun team to watch this year. Bruins Flyers is always a game to watch, and always a matchup that usually puts on a pretty good show. And then Bruins Capitals, every time the Bruins and Capitals play, it's a phenomenal game, it seems like. And there's always a lot of nasty between those teams as well. Even in the preseason, Capitals and Bruins do not like each other. They obviously played in the playoffs against each other last year, had some pretty ornery regular season games as well. So Bruins Caps is definitely a fun one to watch. So obviously it's the preseason. It's not exactly the same as watching regular season hockey, but there's still going to be some fun games, and I just can't wait to have hockey back on my TV screen. That is for sure. So, super excited about all of that, and can't wait to get a chance to watch some of those games and see what the team looks like, see how guys are playing, and hope that the Bruins, set themselves up with a solid preseason to have a really good regular season, and once again go to the playoffs and try and make a run for the Stanley Cup. So, with training camp now started, it's definitely ramping up here, to say the least. And there are certainly some storylines that are kind of breaking out as kind of big topics around the Bruins. And I want to talk about a few of those that have been written about within the last few days on blackandgoldhockey.com, the B&G website. And we're going to start here, obviously, a storyline around this team for the last really couple of years now, Jake DeBrusk. Sam Minton wrote a piece on Jake DeBrusk a couple days ago, looking at how the Bruins are looking to start fresh and try and put last year behind them. And I'll pull that up here. Bruins are looking to start fresh with Jake DeBrusk. Again, if just go to blackandgoldhockey.com if you guys want to check out these articles. There's great team of Bruins writers here at B&G that are pumping out awesome articles each and every day about the team. So definitely check out blackandgoldhockey.com if you're interested in reading about the Bruins and getting a chance to read all these great articles that the writers are putting out and giving their opinions and news and all that about the team. But obviously Jake DeBrusk, we know how the awful year that he had last year, and the year before was kind of a slight step back, and then last year was a massive step back for Jake DeBrusk. And trade rumors, talks about him and Cassidy not getting along, and we didn't know if he was even going to be on the team this year. And I was obviously very hard on Jake DeBrusk last year and not happy with his performance. And I would have been perfectly fine with the Bruins moving on from Jake DeBrusk if that's what the direction that they wanted to go in. But as of now, he's still on the team. He's still a Bruin. He's in the final year of this little bridge deal that they gave him for this season and last season, and he's got to show something. I mean, he's getting up into his mid-20s now. He's got to show something. He's got to improve. And as you can see, a lot was made of at the start of training camp about the Bruins and DeBrusk just looking to start fresh, put everything that happened last year behind them, and just kind of put it all away and treat this year like a blank sheet of paper that needs to be filled in, and nothing from the past is going to be used to fill it in. We're going to fill it in from this year, moving forward. So, there's been a lot of talk about him and Cassidy trying to repair their relationship, and just kind of putting last year behind him and saying we've got to figure it out and we've got to get DeBrusk playing well. And as you can see, Bruce Cassidy, he had a discussion with Jake DeBrusk at the end of the season about turning the page from last year, and that was a big thing with this team, and just trying to move on and get ready to go. Because if you look at what happened last season, he was extremely he was very inconsistent. The only thing he was consistent in was consistently not playing well. He only had 5 goals last season in 41 games. For somebody who's supposed to be, and that's exactly what Sam says here, for someone who is supposed to be a top 6 forward, that simply isn't good enough. That is not even close to good enough. I mean, you're looking at a guy that's supposed to be a top 6 player, that you're looking at somebody who should be scoring 20 goals, and he had 5 last season. That is not even close to good enough. And yeah, he ended up getting healthy scratched last season, and it was just an awful year. But I think the big thing with DeBrusk this year is that we're starting fresh. And that they're starting with a blank sheet, and they're just trying to move forward and get him back playing like he was in 2019 when he was a pivotal part of the Bruins team, and he was a big part of their run to the finals in 2019. And they need that Jake DeBrusk back, without a doubt. Obviously, they also talk about that the team's planning a family barbecue and a planned retreat at some point with all the players in order to build chemistry. That's a big thing that's been a part of the Bruins organization for a long time, and obviously weren't able to do that with COVID and all of the restrictions and everything. But now that things are back to mostly normal, you can start doing things like that. And you can have that team chemistry and make the team feel like a family, like it's supposed to. Obviously, Sam here talks about expectations being low after what happened last year. So I agree. Like, even if he gets 35 or 40 points, that is a step in the right direction for Jake DeBrusk. Because last year he only had 14 points, only 5 of them were goals. If he has 35 or 40 points this season, that is at least a step back in the right direction. And I agree. I think he's going to play on the third line, but I think that the Bruins' third line is going to be good this year. That's something that they really made an effort to improve this offseason, was their bottom six forward group. And now I think Eric Howla is going to be in the middle. I think DeBrusk is going to be on a wing, and I think Nick Foligno is going to be on a wing. And that can be a really solid third line that can put up some points and that can score. So just because he's not playing in the top six anymore, presumably not going to be playing in the top six, doesn't mean that he can't have a good year. I think that third line as a whole can have a really solid year, and DeBrusk can absolutely be a part of that. And consistency is going to be key. He's got to bring it on a nightly basis. Even if maybe there's a stretch where the points aren't there, or the production on the score sheet maybe dries up a little bit, he at least needs to be a high effort player on a nightly basis. That's something that I got really frustrated with him last season about, was him just disappearing. Like, way too many nights he wasn't even noticeable on the ice. Like, not only was he not scoring or not putting up points and producing, but he wasn't even noticeable on the ice. He was having no impact on the game whatsoever, and that is something that needs to change with Jake DeBrusk this year. There's going to be stretches where the production may not be there. There's going to be stretches where maybe he's not lighting it up on the score sheet, but he's still got to be impactful. He's got to be noticeable. He's got to be giving 110% effort on the ice every single night, and that's an area that definitely needs to improve with him. And I think if that does improve, then the points are going to come, and the production is going to come, because he's going to be involved in the play, and he's going to be working hard every night, and that's going to lead to more success. This is just a huge year here. This is an absolutely huge year for Jake DeBrusk, and it's a contract year. And I don't think if he struggles again this season, I don't think he's going to be back. They will definitely try and trade him, and I don't see him coming back if he has another year this year like he did last season. They will move on. So this is an absolutely monster year for Jake DeBrusk, and definitely one of the biggest players to watch heading into this season. And definitely a storyline surrounding this team that is going to be scrutinized heavily all season long, and we're gonna have to wait and see how he performs, and if he's able to get back on track, or if we're in for another disappointing season with Jake DeBrusk. Another great article here. What's missing from the Boston Bruins blue line? Scott Wood wrote this one. Actually came out earlier today. This is, if there's one thing with this Bruins roster and this Bruins lineup that Bruins fans are very much questioning, and Bruins fans are maybe a little bit unhappy about, it's the decor. And I feel like a lot of people think that this Bruins team is kind of maybe missing a defenseman. And we look here, Scott wrote a great article here. Obviously talking about, last year, 2021 playoff run came to an end. I think Brandon Carlo getting injured was a huge reason why, and they didn't have that ability to replace Carlo in the lineup when he went out, and that kind of sunk this Bruins team. And he talks about the defense here. Obviously Charlie McAvoy is a Norris Trophy level defenseman and was top 5 in Norris voting last year, but what else do they have around him? Obviously Carlo, when he's healthy, is a great shutdown guy. Matt Grzelcyk plays extremely well with McAvoy, and that's a fantastic pairing. But Grzelcyk had some injury issues last year and missed quite a few games, and also when he tried to come back from those injuries, he was pretty noticeably playing hurt at times too. So they need him to be healthy. They need Carlo to be healthy. They brought back Mike Riley. They brought they added in Derek Forbert, but really, what is missing with this decor? Because it's a good defense, but it doesn't seem like it's a Stanley Cup level defense. It doesn't seem like when you compare Boston to a team like the Lightning, who won the Cup the past 2 years, the Lightning definitely have an overall better defense core. So if you look about it here, how far off are the Bees' blue line from being Cup worthy? And are there changes in the offseason enough to push it over the top? What's still missing? Well, he goes on to talk about how McAvoy and Grzelcyk really are a tremendous top pairing, and they really are. Matt Grzelcyk, I don't think, gets the credit that he truly deserves, and he and McAvoy together are one of the best defense pairings in the entire NHL. And people say that Grzelcyk isn't really a top pair defenseman, or that he doesn't belong playing up there with McAvoy. Statistically, analytically, that's just not the case at all. They're one of the best defense pairings in the entire NHL. They played of pairings that played 200 or more minutes together last season. Only one pairing, and that was Tanev and Giordano in Calgary last year, ranked higher in expected goals percentage and first in Corsi. For last season, and obviously Giordano is no longer in Calgary, so that pairing's not together. But if you look at the analytics here on McAvoy and Grzelcyk, Corsi 4 percentage, first in the league. Shots 4 percentage, first in the league. Expected goals 4 percentage, second in the league. Expected goals for per 60 minutes, second in the league. Expected goals against per 60 minutes, fourth in the league. They're a tremendous defense pairing. And Boston's going to be fine with them as their top pair as long as they're both healthy. But after that is where you start to have some questions about this decor. They re-signed Mike Riley, which I absolutely loved because I think Mike Riley looked very good next to Brandon Carlo. And I think that you have Riley's offensive transition game in his skating game that really kind of complements the defense first lockdown style of Brandon Carlo. And I think that when you have one next to the other, it really completes the package. You've got the offensive guy that moves the puck and transitions really well in Mike Riley, and then you have this stout defensive guy who's just a lockdown defensive defenseman in Brandon Carlo. And I think when you put them together, you really have the total package. So I love those two as a pair, and I think that they can be a very good pair, again, when they're both healthy for the Boston Bruins. They brought in Derek Forbort. He's going to come in, and I think stylistically he's going to be pretty similar to a Kevin Miller. Miller obviously retired, and he had a lot of injury issues at the end of his career. Forbort stylistically is going to be very similar to Kevin Miller. He was a first-round pick, but never really lived up to that level. However, he has become a pretty solid number 4-5 type defenseman. He's huge, 6'4", 220 pounds, skates decently well for that size, but not going to put up a lot offensively, but he can play 20 minutes a night. He's played a top 4 role in the past with the LA Kings and with the Winnipeg Jets last year. He's physical, he uses his size. He plays aggressively in front of the net and along the boards, and he can drop the gloves when he needs to. He's not a huge fighter, but he can drop the gloves when he needs to. But he just uses that size. He's a stay-at-home defenseman. He's a big-time shot blocker. I mean, this guy blocks a ton of shots. He's going to be great on the penalty kill, which I think is going to help the Bruins a lot in the absence of Kevin Miller. Forbort's really going to step into a top penalty killing role, I think. And I like the addition. The contract may have been a little big for what I would have wanted, but I think stylistically he's going to fit in really well on the bottom pair. And it looks like he's going to be playing with Connor Clifton. Cliffy hockey is what it is. It's exciting. It's fun to watch at times. It's also really reckless at times. You know, you kind of win at some points with Clifton and then you lose at others. And he's probably going to be the bottom pair right defenseman to start this season unless somebody unexpectedly comes in and takes that job. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think your D pairs are going to be obviously Grzelcyk and McAvoy, Riley and Carlo, and Clifton on the right and Forbert on the left. But this goes into where the Bruins are still lacking. Basically, I still don't think if they lose a top 4 guy, I don't think they have anybody that can replace the top 4 guy. And I think that depth issue is something that is definitely going to hurt this team. We saw it last year. Carlo gets hurt in the Islanders series, and the Bruins go from being up in that series to losing 3 straight games and losing the series in 6. And I think the Carlo injury was the reason why. I think the Bruins win that series if Brandon Carlo doesn't get hurt. And I said this when it happened too. I said the exact same thing. That entire defense collapsed when Carlo went down. And he has a pretty extensive injury history at this point for someone as young as he is. And he missed a lot of time last year, not only from the Wilson hit, but then what happened against the Isles in the playoffs when he got hit by Clutterbuck. And, that was it. That was the tipping point with the defense, and they did not have the ability to replace Brandon Carlo when he went out of the lineup. They didn't have anyone that could step up into that role. And even with the additions, I still don't think they have anybody that can step up into that role. They have a number of guys who I would not mind playing a bottom pair role. Obviously, you've got Forbert and Clifton, who I think are in that bottom pair role now. And then you've got, John Moore returning from injury. He's a huge question mark. You've got Jakub Zboril. You've got the potential for a call-up of Urho Vakanainen or Jack Ashawn. I wouldn't mind any of those guys stepping into a bottom pair role. I don't think any of them should be playing a top 4 role, and I don't think anyone on the Bruins bottom pair should be playing a top 4 role. So if Carlo goes down again, or if Grzelcyk goes down, they're in trouble because they don't have anyone to replace those guys. Another thing, they go on to talk about the depth. I think Zboril, I just really don't see it with him. I think he's a borderline NHL defenseman. He probably should be a number 7 or back in the A. He shouldn't be playing regularly at the NHL level, in my opinion. And I don't think he's really going to get much better. I think that what you see is what you get with Zboril. I think he's an organizational depth guy, and I really don't have high expectations for him. And I hope that the Bruins aren't in a position where they need to be playing him in the lineup, because I really don't think he belongs there. Urho Vakanainen showed a lot of promise when he was younger, but he's never really progressed, and that's something I've really soured on Vakanainen over, I would say, the past year and a half. He's never really progressed. Like he came up, he showed a lot of positive signs and a lot of potential as a really young player, and he's just never really improved from that point. He still looks to me the same as he did when he first was playing in Providence and first was playing at the NHL level for the first time, and he hasn't been consistent. His defensive zone is a problem. There's no doubt there's a lot of skating ability. There's a lot of offensive ability with Vakanainen. The defensive zone is not good. I remember watching him in Providence and guys just beating him in front of the net over and over and over again, him losing board battles over and over and over again, and just being like, these are things that need to be getting fixed, and they're not. And he just kind of still looks the same. I've kind of soured on him. I don't think he belongs in the NHL. And John Moore, you don't know. I mean, this guy has missed so much time over the past 2 seasons with injuries. He's a depth guy at this point. He can fill in a bottom pair role if you need him. He can play both sides, much like Connor Clifton, which is definitely a plus, that versatility of being able to play both sides. But he's not somebody that I'd want to have to lean on, especially with the way that the past 2 years have gone. So still, I think there's a depth issue here. I really think that there's a depth issue with this team on the back end. Just they have a lot of okay, not really anybody that moves the needle as far as younger guys or guys that could be called up or, in their depth right now. I think they're fine. They have a good defense. They don't have an elite defense. They don't have the same kind of defense as a team like the Tampa Bay Lightning or even a team like the Carolina Hurricanes or, at this point, even the Colorado Avalanche or Vegas or any of these other contenders around the league. I do think they, have a good defense, but it's not something that is really gonna stand out as the strong suit of the team, and that's when they're healthy. You lose a guy out of your top four, and that becomes a big problem for this team. So I think there's still a depth issue on the back end, and it's just, I don't know. I like the addition of Forbort, but I think it just replaces what they lost in Kevin Miller to a degree, and didn't really, just kind of filled that hole, didn't really make the team better, didn't improve it in any way. But the last thing I want to talk about, some Bruins prospects to watch in Providence here. Tim Richardson wrote this, also came out today. Not only to watch in Providence, but to watch for the Bruins in the preseason and throughout training camp. And these are three guys that I've talked about quite a bit already over the past few weeks. Guys that I all played in the Prospects Challenge that I was watching in those games. And definitely guys to watch that could be getting called up. If, guys on the NHL roster go down, we could be seeing these guys play NHL games. Jakub Lauko, really, really excited about him. He has a lot of offensive upside, extremely fast player. 3rd-round pick from 2018, had a really solid season in Providence last year. If you look at what he did down in the AHL last season, he played 23 games. He had 19 points in those 23 games, almost a point per game player, 5 goals, 14 assists, elite speed, very, very skilled player, and also plays with an attitude. He is a skill first player, but he plays with an attitude. He plays with a chip on his shoulder, and he's not going to take any crap from anybody. So I like, skill guys that play with that attitude. And I think we're going to see him play NHL games at some point this season. If they lose a middle six wing out of the lineup, Lauko is definitely a guy I think that should get a look. Oscar Steen, another one, absolutely really excited to what he brings. Really feisty player. You're looking at more of like a 4th line type guy, but really feisty player who likes to hit. You don't always see that, especially with Swedish players. You don't see that physicality and that kind of grit to his game. Well, he is a real gritty player, and I could see him, getting games on the 4th line this season. He was a 6th-round pick all the way back in 2016, but he's played well in Providence. I liked what he brings in that kind of depth role where he's a guy that you can call up and you know what you're going to get out of him. Never really going to expect huge offense from Steen, but just really gritty player that goes to the net and will really grind along the boards and do the bottom 6 things that you need at the NHL level. He could be a top 6 player in the AHL. I don't think he's a top 6 player in the NHL, but he definitely could see some time on the 4th line. He had 11 points in 23 games last year, 5 goals and 6 assists, and again, just brings that 4th line mentality to the team where he hits everything in sight. He grinds along the wall, likes to push around in front of the net, and just play that kind of role. And the last one is Jack Ashawn, who we did see for a few games up in Boston last year when they were dealing with a bunch of defensive injuries. And this guy just loves to have the puck on his stick and very, very good skater. Played really, really well in Providence last year. I think he played at St. Cloud State in college, and I think there's a ton of upside with this kid to become maybe kind of like a Connor Clifton type player with more offensive upside. Like he's a big time offensive guy who's a really good skater, like Torrey Krug-ish stylistically. I don't know if he's ever gonna become, the high level NHL defenseman that Torrey Krug became, because I mean Torrey Krug became a very, very good defenseman in the NHL. I don't know if he's gonna reach those heights, but stylistically a lot like Torrey Krug here. Smaller guy who puts up a ton of points. And in college, he put up 103 points in 144 games at St. Cloud State. He was also the team captain there in his senior season. And then last year in Providence, he had 1 goal and 9 assists for 10 points in 19 games. He also did get, I believe, 3 games up in Boston last year when they were dealing with some injuries. And really good, great skater, puck-moving defenseman, offensive upside. Obviously you're going to have a number of injuries on the back end for him to be playing up in Boston at this point, but I'm really excited to watch him in Providence and see him in the preseason and see what he can do now a full year in the AHL. I mean, he only played 19 games last year. It was a shortened season for everybody. It was a very shortened season for the AHL. I want to see him a full year in Providence and really see what kind of numbers he can put up down there. And he'll definitely be a call-up in the case of injury for sure with the Bruins, as when you look at their defensive depth, if you get past the probably 8 guys that they're going to be carrying on the NHL roster, I think Sean might be your first call-up out of the Providence guys to be playing NHL games. So he's going to be really exciting to watch, and a lot of speed and upside offensively with him. And again, I think he very much kind of models his game after Torrey Krug in a lot of ways. That similar style player. So those are definitely 3 players that I'm going to be watching in the preseason, especially as they get NHL time, and then down in Providence, where they're likely to start down in Providence this year, but could definitely see NHL games as call-ups in the case of injuries or COVID or another reason throughout this year. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about this week. Obviously, preseason games starting up on Sunday. And then the first televised preseason game coming in on TNT on Thursday. So super exciting to have Boston Bruins hockey back, and some preseason action coming up here very, very shortly. And then the regular season coming up obviously very quick as well, as October 16th isn't all that far away, and the regular season for the NHL as a whole is really not far away. October 12th, it's only like 3 weeks, so we're getting really, really close to hockey being fully back here. Training camp has started, players are on the ice, so definitely if you get a chance to see any video from training camp, or if you're in the area and have a chance to go to training camp, a lot of those sessions are open to the public and you can watch the team and whatnot. That'd be a great opportunity for sure as well. And then there's definitely some storylines. Jake DeBrusk, one of the biggest ones. Him trying to bounce back after a horrendous season last year. You've got the defense, which a lot of people are looking at as kind of a big question mark with this team. Is they have a good defense, but is it good enough? Or it kind of looks like they might still need one more guy, but they don't really have the cap space to do it. So we're going to see if anyone's able to step up into a bigger role this year and really fill out that back end. And then you've got young players that are likely going to be starting in Providence, but are going to be first on the list for call-ups this year. Guys like Lauko and Steen and Ashan, and younger guys that are going to be really interesting to watch and see them continue to develop and see if they can get into the NHL lineup and play NHL games this season. So all things to watch throughout training camp for sure, and all storylines surrounding this team heading into the new season. So that's pretty much going to do it here for episode 36. Thank you guys so much for watching. Really, really appreciate it. Want to again thank Mark Allred and the entire team at Black and Gold Productions. Check out blackandgoldhockey.com. It's where all those 3 articles came from that I talked about in this episode. Great team of writers putting out content each and every day covering the Boston Bruins. Also a fantastic podcast network of a bunch of different shows available there as well. So if you enjoy podcasts and want something to listen to in the car or just throughout your workday or whatever, check out any of those number of shows available on the B&G website. And thank you to them all for the support so much. Really, really does mean a lot. And don't forget about the links down in the description if you're in the market for Boston Bruins apparel. Any NHL team, that's the second link. NCAA college teams, that's the third link. It's all down there. A wide variety of products, wide array to choose from. And it would really mean a lot. So thank you guys so much for checking out episode 36. I'll be back next week, obviously, with episode 37. And by the time we get to next week, preseason games will have been played. So we'll get a look at the team. We'll see what they look like. We'll see if they're, you don't want to put too much emphasis on wins and losses in the preseason because it's not really about that. It's more about how the team is playing and how individuals are playing and how certain guys fit where and whatnot. But we'll have plenty to talk about after seeing some game action by the time we get to next week's show. So that's going to do it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week, and have a great weekend. Enjoy some Boston Bruins hockey now that the season is starting up, and we'll see you soon.